What if you lived in a place where every breath contains far less oxygen than your body needs? Where one mistake with altitude could put your life at risk? A place where the dead are returned to nature instead of buried, where an entire civilization survives above 13,000 feet, and where one sacred mountain has never been climbed, not because it's impossible, but because people refuse to. This is Tibet, one of the most extreme and mysterious places on Earth. Number 1. Life above 4,000 meters. Imagine waking up in a place where the air always feels incomplete. That is everyday life across much of the Tibetan Plateau, the world's highest and largest elevated plateau, covering roughly 2.5 million square kilometers. Vast areas rise more than 4,000 meters, or 13,000 feet, above sea level. Even Lhasa, one of Tibet's best-known cities, stands at approximately 3,650 meters, nearly 12,000 feet. At that elevation, lower air pressure means every breath delivers far less oxygen than it would at sea level. For newcomers, ordinary activities can suddenly feel demanding. Walking quickly, climbing stairs, or carrying a suitcase may leave the heart racing and the lungs struggling to keep up. Headaches, fatigue, nausea, dizziness, loss of appetite, and disturbed sleep are common signs of acute mountain sickness. The CDC warns that rapid ascent increases the risk, which is why gradual acclimatization is essential. Yet this harsh environment is home to millions of people. Communities have lived, worked, raised families, and traveled across the plateau for generations. To outsiders, the altitude can feel punishing. To those born here, it is simply home. Number 2, your body has to work differently. The moment someone from a low-altitude region arrives in Tibet, the body begins fighting to adapt. Within minutes, breathing becomes faster and deeper. Your heart beats harder, trying to deliver enough oxygen to your brain, muscles, and vital organs. Even while sitting still, your body is working far more than it would at sea level. For many visitors, this adjustment leads to acute mountain sickness. Headaches, nausea, dizziness, poor sleep, and loss of appetite are among the most common symptoms. In severe cases, the lack of oxygen can trigger life-threatening conditions such as high-altitude pulmonary edema, where fluid builds up in the lungs, or high-altitude cerebral edema, where swelling affects the brain. Both require immediate medical attention. What makes Tibet truly remarkable is how its native people have adapted over thousands of years. Research has identified genetic variations, including those involving the EPAS1 gene, that help many Tibetans use oxygen more efficiently without producing unusually high numbers of red blood cells, a response often seen in people from lower elevations. As a result, while many visitors become exhausted after a short walk, local herders, farmers, and workers can carry out physically demanding daily routines at altitudes that challenge most of the human body. In Tibet, survival is not driven by determination alone. It is also written into human biology. Number 3. The world's highest plateau. Tibet is not just a collection of towering mountains. It is an entire world lifted thousands of meters above sea level. The Tibetan Plateau, often called the roof of the world, covers roughly 2.5 million square kilometers, making it the largest and highest plateau on Earth. Unlike most mountain regions, where high elevations are limited to individual peaks, Tibet remains elevated across an enormous landscape. Cities, villages, grasslands, lakes, and highways all exist in an environment where thin air is simply part of everyday life. But this plateau is far more than a geographical wonder. It is often known as Asia's water tower because it feeds many of the continent's major river systems, including the Yangtze, Yellow, Mekong, Indus, Brahmaputra, and Salween. Together, these rivers provide fresh water for nearly 2 billion people living downstream across multiple countries. Life here is shaped by extreme conditions. Intense ultraviolet radiation, freezing winters, powerful winds, and a short growing season make survival difficult for both people and wildlife. Yet countless species and communities have adapted to this remarkable landscape over thousands of years. The Tibetan Plateau is more than the highest place on Earth. It is one of the planet's most important ecosystems, where the environment influences the lives of people far beyond its borders. Number 4. Isolated from the outside world. In Tibet, distance is not measured only in miles or kilometers. It is measured by altitude, rugged terrain, unpredictable weather, and the difficulty of the journey itself. Surrounded by some of the world's highest mountain ranges, including the Himalayas and the Kunlun Mountains, much of the Tibetan Plateau remained naturally isolated for centuries. Even today, reaching some remote communities can require hours of driving over mountain roads or days of travel across high-altitude terrain, especially during harsh weather. Heavy snowfall, landslides, and freezing temperatures can temporarily block roads and mountain passes, making travel unpredictable. For some rural communities, accessing hospitals, schools, or larger markets may still involve long and physically demanding journeys, despite continued improvements in transportation infrastructure. Yet this isolation has also helped preserve distinctive languages, religious traditions, architecture, and ways of life that have been passed down for generations. In many places, daily routines continue to follow the rhythm of the seasons, the movement of livestock, and the changing weather rather than the pace of modern cities. Tibet is not simply remote on a map. It is a place where nature still sets the schedule and where life often moves according to the mountains instead of the clock. Number 5. Religion isn't part of life. It is life. In Tibet, faith is not limited to temples or religious holidays. It is woven into everyday life, shaping how many people think, travel, celebrate, and understand the world around them. For centuries, Tibetan Buddhism has played a central role in the region's cultural identity. Monasteries have served not only as places of worship, but also as centers of learning, art, and community life. Along roads and mountain paths, it is common to see pilgrims turning prayer wheels, chanting mantras, or walking clockwise around sacred sites. Some pilgrims travel hundreds, even thousands, of kilometers to complete these spiritual journeys. A few perform full-body prostrations along the entire route, a practice that can take months to complete. To an outsider, it may seem like an extraordinary physical challenge. For the pilgrims, however, it is an expression of humility, devotion, and faith. In Tibet, the spiritual and the everyday are deeply connected, making religion not just a belief, but a way of life. Number 6. Prayer. Flags are everywhere in Tibet. Even the wind is believed to carry blessings. Across mountain passes, rooftops, bridges, and remote valleys, colorful prayer flags are a familiar part of the landscape. They are far more than decorations. Each flag is traditionally printed with sacred mantras, prayers, and symbolic images representing compassion, wisdom, and good fortune. Rather than keeping prayers in one place, these flags are hung where the wind blows strongest. According to Tibetan Buddhist tradition, every breeze carries the prayers outward, spreading peace and goodwill to all living beings. One of the most remarkable traditions is that old prayer flags are not always removed when they fade. Instead, they are often left to weather naturally, symbolizing impermanence and the continuous cycle of life. New flags are hung alongside the old, reflecting renewal rather than replacement. The 5 colors also hold deep meaning. Blue represents the sky, white the air, red fire, green water, and yellow the earth. Together, they symbolize harmony between humanity and the natural world. In Tibet, faith is not confined to temples. It moves with the wind, blending seamlessly into the mountains, the landscape, and everyday life. Number 7. Sky burial. A different view of death. In many cultures, death is kept out of sight. In parts of Tibet, it has traditionally been viewed as a natural step in the cycle of existence. One of the region's best-known funeral traditions is sky burial, a sacred practice carried out at designated sites by trained practitioners. According to Tibetan Buddhist beliefs, once life has ended, the body is an empty vessel, while consciousness continues its spiritual journey. This tradition also developed in response to the plateau's environment. Frozen, rocky ground often makes burial difficult, and firewood has historically been scarce in many high-altitude areas. Returning the body to nature became both a practical and deeply symbolic act. Rather than focusing on loss alone, sky burial reflects the belief that all living things are connected through an ongoing cycle of life. The ceremony is performed with respect, following long-established religious customs, and is not intended for public spectacle. In Tibet, death is often understood not simply as an ending, but as a transition within a much larger journey. Number 8. Food designed for survival. At an altitude where winters are long, the air is dry, and the growing season is short, food is shaped by necessity more than variety. Traditional Tibetan cuisine is built to provide energy, warmth, and endurance in one of the world's harshest environments. One of its most important staples is sampa, made from roasted barley flour. Barley is one of the few crops that thrives on the high plateau, and sampa is lightweight, easy to store, and rich in calories, making it ideal for daily life and long journeys. Another famous staple is butter tea, a blend of tea, yak butter, salt, and water. Its rich, salty flavor often surprises first-time visitors, but for local communities, it provides valuable calories, hydration, and warmth in the cold, high-altitude climate. Yak and mutton also play a major role in the traditional diet, supplying protein and fat where fresh vegetables can be limited, especially during winter or in remote regions. In Tibet, meals are not defined by luxury or endless choice. They are carefully adapted to the environment, giving people the nutrition they need to live and work on the roof of the world. Number 9. The yak, the animal that makes life possible. In much of Tibet, life would be far more difficult without one remarkable animal, the yak. Perfectly adapted to high altitudes, yaks thrive where many other livestock cannot. Their thick coats protect them from freezing temperatures, their powerful lungs help them cope with thin air, and their sturdy bodies allow them to cross steep, rocky terrain with ease. For centuries, yaks have supported nearly every aspect of daily life on the plateau. Their milk is used to make butter, cheese, and yogurt. Their meat provides valuable protein, while their wool is woven into clothing, ropes, blankets, and traditional tents. Even dried yak dung serves as an important source of fuel in areas where trees are scarce. Yaks are also trusted pack animals, carrying food and supplies across mountain trails that vehicles often cannot reach. What makes this relationship so extraordinary is that almost nothing goes to waste. Every part of the animal has a practical purpose, making the yak far more than livestock. In Tibet, the yak is not simply an animal. It has been one of the foundations of survival for generations. Number 10. Nomadic life still exists. While much of the world has become centered around cities and permanent homes, parts of Tibet still follow a way of life that has existed for centuries. Across the vast grasslands, some Tibetan herding families continue to move with the seasons, searching for fresh grazing land and reliable water for their animals. These journeys are carefully planned, guided by generations of knowledge about weather, altitude, pasture conditions, and the rhythms of the land. Many nomadic families traditionally lived in portable tents woven from yak hair, designed to withstand strong winds, freezing temperatures, and life on the open plateau. Everything they own must be practical enough to pack, transport, and rebuild whenever it is time to move. To outsiders, constantly relocating may seem uncertain, but for Tibetan nomads, mobility is what creates stability. By moving with the land instead of exhausting it, they have developed a lifestyle that balances the needs of both people and livestock. In Tibet, home is not defined by a permanent address. It is defined by the journey across the plateau, following a tradition refined over countless generations. Number 11. Harsh weather all year round. In Tibet, the weather does not simply influence daily life, it often determines it. At elevations above 4,000 meters, conditions can change with remarkable speed. A bright, sunny morning may give way to strong winds, dark clouds, or snowfall within just a few hours. During the day, the sun can feel surprisingly intense, yet after sunset, temperatures may quickly drop below freezing, even outside the winter season. The plateau also receives some of the strongest ultraviolet radiation on Earth. With thinner air filtering less sunlight, UV levels are significantly higher than at lower elevations, increasing the risk of sunburn and eye damage even in cold weather. For local communities, adapting to these conditions is part of everyday life. Clothing is layered for sudden temperature shifts, homes are built to retain heat, and travel plans often depend on weather forecasts and mountain conditions rather than convenience. On the Tibetan Plateau, nature is always in control. Before people decide what they can do, the weather often makes that decision first. Number 12. Modern infrastructure is uneven. Tibet is changing, but not every place is changing at the same pace. Major cities such as Lhasa have seen significant improvements in highways, rail connections, electricity, healthcare, and internet access over the past 2 decades. Yet beyond these urban centers, the picture can be very different. In many remote communities, reaching a hospital, school, or larger marketplace may still require hours of travel across mountain roads. Heavy snow, landslides, and high-altitude conditions can delay transportation, while mobile phone and internet coverage may become unreliable in isolated valleys. This creates a striking contrast across the plateau. Modern cities continue to grow, while some rural areas still rely heavily on traditional knowledge, local resources, and close-knit communities for everyday life. In Tibet, 2 places separated by only a few dozen miles can feel like they belong to different worlds. The difference is not just geography, it is how connected each community is to modern infrastructure and technology. Number 13. Mount Kailash, the sacred mountain no one climbs. In a world where humans have reached the summit of nearly every great peak, Mount Kailash remains one of the few remarkable exceptions. Rising to about 6,638 meters or 21,778 feet, no officially recognized ascent of the mountain has ever taken place. The reason is not that Kailash is the tallest or the most technically difficult mountain on Earth. Its greatest protection comes from something far more powerful, its spiritual significance. For followers of Tibetan Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and the Bon tradition, Mount Kailash is regarded as one of the world's holiest mountains. Rather than climbing to the summit, pilgrims honor it by completing the Kora, a sacred circuit of about 52 kilometers around its base. Many finish the journey in several days, while some perform full-body prostrations for the entire route, a pilgrimage that can take weeks. Unlike most famous mountains, Kailash is respected not as a challenge to conquer, but as a place of profound spiritual meaning. In a world driven by exploration and achievement, Mount Kailash stands as a rare reminder that some places are preserved not by barriers or laws, but by shared faith and respect. Number 14. A culture determined to preserve its identity. Like many places around the world, Tibet continues to change as technology, transportation, and urban development expand across the region. Yet alongside these changes, many traditional customs remain an important part of everyday life. The Tibetan language, traditional clothing, music, festivals, and religious ceremonies continue to shape the identity of many communities. In rural areas especially, customs passed down through generations are still practiced as part of daily routines, not only during special celebrations. Younger generations often grow up using smartphones, attending modern schools, and connecting with the outside world. At the same time, many also participate in religious festivals, make pilgrimages, learn traditional arts, and preserve their family's cultural heritage. This creates a unique balance between tradition and change. Modern life continues to evolve, but it does not always replace what came before. In Tibet, the past and the present often exist side by side, showing that cultural identity can adapt over time while still holding on to its deepest roots. Number 15. Survival is a way of life. In Tibet, survival does not begin when danger appears. It is part of everyday life. Nearly every daily decision is shaped by the environment. Homes are traditionally built with thick walls and small windows to retain heat during long, cold winters. Food is chosen for its ability to provide lasting energy, while travel is carefully planned around weather, altitude, and physical endurance rather than convenience. People learn to make the most of limited resources, repairing, reusing, and adapting instead of wasting. Over generations, this demanding landscape has fostered a culture built on resilience, patience, and a deep respect for nature's limits. To many visitors, life on the Tibetan Plateau may seem harsh or even overwhelming, but for the people who call it home, these challenges are simply part of everyday existence. Tibet reminds us that true strength is not always about conquering the impossible. Sometimes it is found in quietly adapting, enduring, and living in harmony with one of the most demanding environments on Earth. Tibet is a place that challenges everything we think we know about survival, nature, and human resilience. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to World Decoded, and share it with someone who loves discovering the world's most fascinating places. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.